Well, welcome everybody. Once again, we're here excited to share with you all. Thank you for taking the time to come check us out and visit our podcast. We're excited to
Yes.
be here.
And today we have a very interesting topic, one that is very often misunderstood. We're going to be talking about boundaries, Jorge.
Yes, boundaries. It's interesting because people feel that boundaries are a negative thing. Oftentimes, I've heard people complain about, I don't want to feel that I'm restrained, that I'm being, removed the right to do something or whatever.
Especially these days that, it's all about my rights and my
Seriously,
whatever.
but you know what? We need to probably adjust a little bit. I think it'll help to adjust our perspective only if you understood the benefit of a boundary. The boundary, by definition, is like a line that marks an area, a certain area. In this case, area of relationships, right? We're talking
Yes.
about relationships. So there are things that you can actually set in front of you as goals to protect those things in order to protect the actual relationship.
Yes.
Your marriage, or if you're dating, it's important to understand. I mean, people have preferences, and there's some things that are beneficial to you, especially if you're coming from a recovery journey or wherever you are standing in life. A boundary is good.
Jorge,
It's
let's
good.
talk a little bit about a natural boundary so people can kind of like relate to what boundaries do. Because it's kind of hard to think about boundaries in relationship and the emotional concepts and that kind of stuff. In the natural, what would be an example of a boundary that is clearly something for our benefit?
Oh yeah, we use this all the time. You actually you guys have seen those white squares, kind of rectangle, white and black with speed limits.
Is it
You
a
know those
square or
speed
is it a
limits.
rectangle, Jorge?
It is kind of rectangle, but it's like, like this way, horizontal. So, those are called speed limits. And speed limits are established for a reason.
Yes.
If there's like a school, if they're like a residential area, you're going to notice that those speed limits are going to be decreased to very low speeds where you have to be actually abiding by.
Yes.
And this is not because, somebody thought, let me just give people a hard time,
Yes.
have them, slow down. It's because there might be kids running around, coming out of school, coming out of their houses, playing around on the street. And they're just setting, protecting, shields around these kids so that cars can actually slow down.
That is a great example.
Yes.
That is a great
It's
example.
protecting the kids.
Yes, and another one, and as I think, is in health. There are numbers that, doctors suggest that we keep our cholesterol, our sugar levels, our weight, our body mass index, which women, we all freak out when we see those numbers, when we get on the scale. Well, it is not just about beauty. And sometimes we want to make things about what they're not. It is about safety, about being healthy, about having a heart that is going to last this race, about having a body that is going to respond, that can move, that can, do what we wanted and what we needed to do. So it's not that those numbers were created to just give us a hard time. And like, I hate it when you go to the doctor and they check you on the obese category.
Well, I think many of us are like qualifying now. Like, you just hit the mark. You are obese. Oh, God.
And that is a mark that you don't want to kind of like have to deal with. But when we think about it, then all of our numbers, when we are at an unhealthy weight, all of those numbers get elevated and our life is at risk.
That's an amazing example of a good boundary to be watching for, right? When it comes to health, when it comes to protection, to the natural boundaries that we find natural because they have become part of our everyday. It's like when you're riding a car, there's some guardrails around some roads or highways or high rails, some people call them.
Or curves.
Or
When you
road
go on
rails,
a
whatever you
curve,
call it. Yeah,
yeah.
the curves. So they protect you from going over and having a really bad accident. So I think, Denise, it's very important to understand, for us to understand what a healthy boundary looks like.
Yes.
Right?
And we only get to share a little bit. We have developed an entire e-course that is available to all of you that want to know more about boundaries and how to protect yourself and how to protect the people that you love and the relationships that you want to maintain. Because some people are in trouble right now because they have not established good boundaries in their relationships, and is creating problems. So one of the most important boundaries, Jorge, that we need to be mindful of is that even though you and I are husband and wife, I am still an individual. And as an individual, there are things that make me me. And when I enmesh with you, when I forget about who I am and the space that I belong and the things that belong to me, and I start blending that and it becomes a gray area with you, then we're having boundary issues.
I think, very, a lot of people actually, they probably misdefine the actual, concept of what a good boundary should feel like. The fact that you're married, or even if you're single, if you're dating,
became one.
Yes, the whole concept of becoming one can be misinterpreted, and we've seen that over and over. We see that in counseling so often, and it's that only allows you to not think or put yourself in the space that you need to be as an individual. We need to learn to respect our own individuality. I think this is, God made us individuals.
Even our personalities, Jorge, like it's not a secret for everybody that Jorge is the most joyful person.
Am I?
He's always on a light spirit. He's always laughing. Everything is funny. And
Life's too short,
even when
Life's
something is bothering him or is not right, his approach to it is so light and chill. Well, I am not that kind of human. So
oh my goodness.
I have a little bit more of a harder time. But you know what? Our personalities are different, and it is okay that we embrace our personalities.
You see how God brought us together? You see the value now of this relationship, my love?
And even though it brings balance, yes, we learn from each other. In a sense, I don't have to be throwing jokes or being funny, in a given moment when he feels like that. Or I don't have to feel like being spontaneous when that is not my personality, when I need a little bit more calculation than he does. And that is okay. Learning to navigate those differences and not let them bring us apart, and learn to actually come closer and stronger in communication is part of the key into defining who you are and keeping your own boundaries.
Absolutely. And when you actually realize that a boundary has been crossed, that you have crossed that line, you're going to know it. You're going to feel kind of uncomfortable, unsettled. There's something like deep in your spirit. It's going to be like, It's going to be reminding you, hey, remember this. This is what you said this for a reason. So let's not fight the boundaries that you have established for your life, for your relationship, because they're going to protect you.
Yes. And there are things that we're responsible for, and there are things that we're not responsible for in a relationship. So I'm responsible of me. I am not responsible for you. And when you don't have the kindness in a relationship to respect me and who I am and the way that I feel threatened or unsafe, then we need to have conversations. And some of you are in relationships. Some of our audience are in relationships right now that they don't know how to manage because somebody is managing them. Somebody is keeping control and has taken freedom from that person.
And it might feel to those who are taking control that they are doing the right thing, even if you see that the other person is not, that your partner or anybody else around you is not performing to what you expect, to your standards or whatever. It is important for them to grow and to be able to make those calls on their own, because eventually what this is going to produce is more connectivity, more vulnerability, because they're not going to feel as controlled, as dictated. It can become like a dictatorship.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And who wants to be in a relationship that feels so controlled, so like rigid? I think everybody needs that space. One
of the good signs for you to know if you have decent boundaries, or there's some a sense of who you are, a strong sense of individuality, is that you feel relaxed, you feel comfortable in the relationship, you don't feel guarded. So your self-esteem your definition of worth, your self-worth, are at good levels. You feel like you are something, that you have a voice, that you are valued. When those things are not present, depression starts to come in, anxiety starts to come in,
Low
stress.
self-esteem, obviously.
Yes. So that is one of the indicators. That's one of the things for us to check to see where are we with boundaries.
So let's actually talk about that, Danisa. Like, if I am struggling, trying to find out if I am not keeping healthy boundaries, what are some of the things that I'm going to be feeling? I can think of one thing, actually. You might be stating things like, I am nobody without this man or this woman. I'm nothing. My life is over.
Identity is based on that person.
Right.
They start being what gives you worth, what gives you value. And we were created already with value, with worth. Individually, who I am. I don't need a man. I don't need a wife. I don't need a job. I don't need a surgery. I don't need anything to give value to my life. I was already created as a valuable individual.
A lot can come out of those kind of relationships. I mean, a lot of damaging, emotional damages. I think you can go through some lack of self-esteem. We talk about that, but also lack of self-confidence.
Yes.
You lose the ability to even to make decisions on a regular, like, day-to-day basis.
Well, and sometimes, Jorge, we think that, we can keep boundaries on the physical, and like a man doesn't touch me, or, like nobody comes in my space and invades my physical space. But there are so many different types of boundaries, emotional, sexual boundaries, psychological boundaries. There's so much abuse that can go on and take place in this area of lack of boundaries. So
even spiritual.
Yes. Our time is coming here to an end, but there are so many different areas in which you need to take a look and revise. What are you doing boundary-wise to protect yourself, to protect who you are spiritually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and even physically? Like, are you a yes person all the time? Yes, all the time. Is it hard for you to say no? Let's take a look at that. And again, the course that we've created on these issues of boundaries can help you sort out what are the things that I'm responsible for, what are the things that I am not responsible for, what are the signs that I need to look, and what are the things that I can do to overcome and to become a strong, healthy individual. And therefore have and be able to sustain a healthy relationship.
I think we all have been created very uniquely with a very specific DNA that we can actually learn to love and embrace, and not have to depend on anybody else for our own, emotional, spiritual, or even like physical stability. We need to just find our core, find the strength that we are given, and go and bank on it.
Yes.
Really, bank on it.
So for a little bit more information on this topic and any of the other topics that we cover during our episodes, you can go to our website.
Yes, and that is ccicounseling.com. Once again, ccicounseling.com. There's articles, there are all kind of resources related to this topic, but also so many other things that will actually strengthen, help you enhance your relationship today.
Until the next episode.
Ciao, ciao.